I bring to you today the Moto Morini Seiemmezzo. It's a difficult to say name, but a pretty cool little motorcycle. This is the first time we feature this brand on the channel, the Moto Morini, and it's kind of a funny story. I got this bike kind of handed to me. I got an email coming in from Eurocycle, one of our dealer partners, and they're like, hey, you're getting a Moto Morini. And I was like, I don't even know what a Moto Morini is, so just bring it on over my way. Showed up here in a big semi truck, we unloaded it, and I've been kind of taking a look at it and getting ready for my ride and review. And this bike has a very interesting story. So if you don't know, Moto Morini is an old Italian company. It started in the 30s, and they started making small displacement bikes, bicycles, that sort of thing. The same thing that everyone was doing back in the 30s. They changed hands a bunch of different times over the next decades after the 30s. They were pretty competitive in racing as well, competed in GP with a single-cylinder motorcycle, which is pretty cool. But then in the last couple of years, a Chinese conglomerate called Zhongnen or Zinen, I have a couple different sources on the internet, bought the Moto Morini brand. And now you're gonna say, Yam, oh my God, it's another Chinese bike. I can't do this. The CF Motos, the booms, this, why is everything a Chinese bike? And look, it's not my fault. But here's the tricky part about this. Moto Morini is still manufactured, produced, and designed in Italy. There's just a Chinese holding company that owns it, and I guess is determining the direction that these machines are gonna go. So this Seiemmezzo over here is a 649cc parallel twin with a nice round headlight, a cool TFT display, coming in at $7,499. That's pretty competitive and pretty compelling, and you gotta admit, this bike looks pretty cool. So today, we're doing a full ride and review on this bike. Before we get out there on the road, I wanted to just take a closer look at this machine and see if we can spot any Chinese weirdness or anything strange about this bike, and just point out its kind of quirks and features. So let's discover everything about the Seiemmezzo, and let's go take it for a spin. So it's called a Seiemmezzo, and that means 6.5 in Italian, if my memory serves me correctly, and that is the displacement we're working with here, 649 cc's, making 55 horsepower and 40 foot-pounds of torque. Now, admittedly, that is a little down over the other 650 bikes in this category. The MT-07 is a 689cc, making 75 horsepower. SV650s, I think, are 68 horsepower, and a 649cc V-twin. So it's a little down on power. And that's gonna be the kind of thing when you look at the specs of this machine, is it's just a little bit less than you would normally see for the Japanese competitors. The big thing I wanna talk about is the weight on this machine. Moto Morini is quoting 430 pounds dry, so that's probably gonna be close to about 475 pounds wet and ready to ride. And to be honest, when you get this bike on the side here, it's dense, you know, it's kind of heavy. And that's not a great thing for beginner riders, I will say. But with a 31-inch seat height, it's actually very easy to swing a leg over it. I'm about 5'11", 32-inch inseam, so I've got a nice bend in my legs, very comfortable for me, not a bad thing. The riding position is very neutral. The gas tank is a very nice shape. It's not too wide, not too narrow. It just feels very good to be on this thing. The control inputs feel very nice too. I gotta admit, I was actually quite surprised that the build quality here is quite high. If you flick on the lights, you can see that you get that nice ring light right there. It looks really cool. And you get a full color TFT display here, which is quite a bit better than you get in something like the MT-07. And again, at this price point, $74.99, that's pretty good. The other thing that you get that's pretty good is you have a fully adjustable fork up here at the front, rebound and compression. Now, is it gonna be an amazing responsive fork? No, it's not gonna be anything like that, but the fact that you can dial it in a little bit is pretty cool. You also have a rebound adjustable shock in the back, which allows you to tighten or soften the damping forces here on the back of the machine. One of the cool things is this motorcycle comes equipped with Pirelli Angel GT tires from the factory, which is a great sport touring tire that's gonna give you plenty of mileage, and that's really what you're gonna wanna see on a bike like this. Up front, you have a 120/17, wait for it, 18-inch rim. Yes, this is an 18-inch rim up front with a 160/60/17 out back. That's gonna provide a bit of a different setup than you're used to with your traditional 17 up front on your sport bikes. So all that being said, I'm taking a close look at this machine. The welds are okay. The build quality is reasonable. I think for the price, you could do a whole lot worse. You have a Brembo master cylinder up here at the front, Brembo calipers front and rear. It's an upside down fork, which is pretty cool. And it does look pretty handsome. So all that being said, this looks to be a pretty competitive package. Let's get it out on the road and see if that translates.
Alrighty folks,
on the Seiemmezzo over here, the 650 from Moto Morini. And, you know, I gotta say, if I'm gonna be totally honest and start this review off, this bike looks a lot better than it rides. I don't want to be that guy. I know that's a little rude to say to the Moto Morini, but hey, at least I'm telling you, it's a pretty handsome little motorcycle, because it is. It's a very good looking bike, but you know, a lot of the control inputs here and a lot of how this bike feels is not the most ideal thing in the world. Let's start off with the motor, shall we? 649cc parallel twin, making about 55 to 60-ish horsepower. It feels a little lazy. I'm not gonna lie, it does feel a little lazy. You ride an MT-07 and you get that peppy, effervescent pull from the motor, really snappy throttle. This thing is a little bit lazier. It's a little bit, you know, last generation with the engine. And given that it's a 180-degree crank, doesn't really sound all that great. You know, a little lazier of a motor, not really revving as high, not a 270-degree crank. It kind of sounds like if I'm going to be honest, like a Ninja 300, but just a little bit overgrown. Maybe an old generation Ninja 500 even. It feels like an old school model. The throttle response is actually very crisp. It actually works pretty well. If I notice here, just kind of neutral throttle going through these corners, it can hold the line very well. It's maintaining that throttle really nicely. Not a whole lot of jerkiness through there. Off throttle feels really nice. Rolling back on, it's really good. No complaints there. One of my complaints though is the braking setup. I don't really feel like this bike has the best feeling brakes, and it's bizarre because it's on dual disc Brembo calipers with you know, a Brembo master cylinder, but something about it, you know, just, I don't know, doesn't feel quite right to me. Yeah, I would rate it more of like an 8 out of 10, whereas the motor itself, I'm kind of rating it, you know, maybe a 6 out of 10. I think the braking components are fine. For the price point, it's really competitive, and that's what I have to keep coming back to in my mind, is that this motorcycle is under $7,500 MSRP. And so as we start flicking it through the twisties here, on these Pirelli Angel GT tires from the factory, we'll see if we can pick it up a little bit off the apex here. You guys hear that? Just that little bit lazy, you know? It sounds a lot like a Ninja 500 or something like that. It doesn't feel quite like a 650. And maybe that's a benefit to you guys out there. Maybe if you're looking for a motorcycle that's not going to break the bank and is going to feel really, you know, kind of like last generation, but like not quite a 650 class bike, this is a great choice, because this genuinely has enough torque and power to entertain a beginner, but I would not classify this as a beginner plus motorcycle like you would something like the R7 or the MT-07. I mean, it's making 15 to 20 less horsepower than a comparable MT-07 or an R7. And, you know, the torque really feels quite down as well. It only makes like, I think, 40 foot-pounds of torque. So, you know, as a package for the beginner rider, an interesting choice. You know, it's kind of splitting the difference between something like a CF Moto 450 SS or Ninja 400 and the MT-07s. And one thing I wanted to point out is I feel like this TFT display here, while it does look very good, I have to say, like, riding this motorcycle, I feel like the TFT is very crisp, very easy to read. It's the type of situation where it almost feels like they put this on the bike to obfuscate the fact that the bike is okay. You know, they're like, oh, look, it's really handsome and it looks really good. Why don't you check out this TFT display, and aren't you so intrigued by it? And one of the funniest things about it is if you cycle through the menus, it actually provides a tire pressure reading, which is pretty cool. You're like, oh wow, like it's got a TPMS system, right? However, it's in a unit of measurements that I have never seen before. It's telling me the front tire was at 256 kPa. Perhaps some of the more educated people out there in the comments section that maybe paid attention in their physics classes could tell me what that means, because I don't have my phone handy and I can't look it up. But I've never heard of that measurement. I've heard of PSI, I've heard of bars, but I've never heard of kPa, so I'm not really sure what that means. Side to side though, the bike feels pretty good. I gotta be honest. Like, you know, in terms of compliance, in terms of what it's designed to do,
I actually really quite like it. It feels really good doing that sort of thing back there. I think the tires are massively helping, and I think having an adjustable fork is a nice thing too. I think that's really cool for this bike to have. Geez, that motor is just not what you'd expect in a 650 class. Not today. Not when you have MT-07s and SV650s. That's really very lazy. Nothing wrong with it. You know, it's a lot cheaper than an MT-07. But I don't know, man. I think you definitely get what you pay for. It has decent mid-range grunt, but it just doesn't sound that good doing it. Why don't we go ahead and do a little 0 to 60 pull here, shall we? We got the stop sign here. Three gears. There's 60. That took a while. That was not really what I'd consider sporting performance. That wasn't something that I would say, wow, I was blown away by that. And I definitely think an MT-07 would absolutely dust up on this thing. But again, you're probably not looking at a Moto Morini thinking I'm going to get some speed demon, because that's not what the bike is designed to do. So that begs the question, what is this bike designed to do? They make a street version, an STR, and a scrambler version, an SCR. But the standard scrambler version comes with an 18-inch front end and these Pirelli Angel GTs. So you kind of think, okay, sport touring, like pop around naked bike, cafe bike, what is this thing really meant to do? And I think it is meant to just be a kind of classic Roadster style bike. Maybe something more akin to a Triumph Bonneville or something like that. I don't think this thing is really trying to be a sport naked bike, although it does look like a sport naked bike. With the single ring LED up front and the way it kind of is all set up, I think it's the type of motorcycle that people would want to buy in order to, just bop around town, get to their local coffee shop, maybe do a nice spirited ride. But it's definitely not a track bike, it's definitely not a sport bike, so maybe that's what it's designed to be. But I mean, from the look of it though, you would really think that it's a motorcycle that is kind of meant to be a sporting motorcycle. But yeah, I'm conflicted about this thing, because on the one hand it's very cheap, but on the other hand you kind of get what you pay for, and I don't think that the features it's offering are all that impressive given the performance that I'm feeling from the seat of my pants. Like, yes, it has an adjustable fork, yes, it has a TFT, yes, it's got Brembo brakes, but none of that's really translating into a better riding experience for me. Let's pick up the pace here a little bit. We'll just see how it feels through this set of corners. Nice and wide through here. We have tons of room, really nice. Stay to the outside. Grab those brakes. Still a bike, you can still have fun with it. It's pretty cool, but I don't know, man. I don't know, it's a little, don't know about this Seiemmezzo. I think we're gonna have to think a little bit more about it. All right, folks, let's go ahead and pull the Seiemmezzo over here and wrap up our final thoughts on this bike. Okay, so what do I make of it? Well, let's take another look at it, shall we? Maybe that'll help, because I do think that I don't want to say it's disappointing, but this thing really feels last generation to me. Yes, it looks very nice. I have to admit, this is a handsome little motorcycle. I think the lines right here, if you look at where that gas tank is, going straight to the seat, really very well executed design on this bike. And it's Italian, so they know what they're doing, right? But it feels last generation, man. This feels like a 2012 motorcycle. This feels like a 500cc bike from 10 years ago. This doesn't feel like it's supposed to be competing in the current 650 class. And again, it doesn't because it's so cheap. But I do think that if you're looking at a 650 class of motorcycling, spend a teensy bit more money, and you will get a whole lot more bike. The main reason I'm saying that is the motor. And as the name implies, a motorcycle, the motor, the engine is very important. And this one in particular just leaves a little bit to be desired. I would happily wait and save $1,000 more and get an MT-07 versus this thing. Although I think that Morini is close. I think if they were to improve the performance of this motor a little bit, make it just a little bit more of what we expect in the 650 class, I think it would be a pretty knockout hit and would definitely compete, because all the rest works really well. The frame is nice. The front suspension actually is very compliant. It's adjustable. It's got Brembo brakes. If everything about it tells me that it's trying to be a nice premium bike at a competitive price point. But, it kind of reminds me of the CF Moto offerings when they first were coming to the States, where you're like, oh, they're almost there, like these 300s, all this stuff, like, oh, we're close, we're close. So I think maybe the second generation Seiemmezzo, maybe they'll come out with just a nice little 700cc bike, an updated motor. That could be a really cool offering, but I think I'm going to rate this bike a 6 out of 10, maybe a 6.5 out of 10. How about that? A 6.5 for the 6.5 bike. I think that works out pretty well. Guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. I hope you appreciate it. Hope you learned something. And yeah, big shout out to Eurocycle for sending us over the Moto Morini so we can check out. Catch you guys in the next one. See you later.